Right. So, once again, I'm not expecting any viewers, and if there are viewers, I'm going to apologize now for not answering, because I really want to get some things off my chest, and I really want to stay focused on what I'm actually doing right now, the actual fight that I'm doing and looking after, which is a full-time job, 7 days a week, 24/7. It affects me through the night, and it's more than just a waiting game, because I'm in the process of the investigation at the moment. They pretty much know that it's cancer, but no one's allowed to say it, because you're not ethically allowed to say that it's cancer until there's a diagnosis. So a lot of reading between the lines when I'm talking with doctors of whatever speciality. They're all being guided now by my oncologist, who is them like specific things for their biopsies and things. So I'm gonna try and paint a cross section of where I'm at right now before I start. It's taken me 2 hours to get to the pool. It takes me a long time to get to the pool because I'm riddled with pain throughout my body, so I'm walking like a cripple in the mornings, and I have a bit of a morbid sense of humor anyway, because I've accepted that the reality is I might not survive this. So my goal is to get my bunnies to bond before I die, and anyone hears that is like, oh, don't say that, you know, because people generally can't cope with that. They don't know how to deal with the face of death. But I've accepted it, that it's a possibility, it's a reality that I'm going through right now. So once again, I preface this video with, I'm sorry I won't be answering your questions, because I'm just trying to focus on myself right now, where I'm at, on what the actual fight is, just to document what's on my mind in the event that I don't make it. But also, if I do make it, then I have a transcript of stuff that I can edit together to help other people who are maybe facing the same thing, maybe a different cross-section in the discovery process, the investigation process. So I want to make content eventually that I have a chance to sit down and edit, condense it in something meaningful that can help others face the multitude of challenges that cancer presents. So the first thing I want to just get myself set up with is a facial massage. Thank you, Wilson. I say what I need to say right now will help others. I'm documenting this purely for myself. I'm not doing this as a sort of audience reel. This is like a self-journaling thing that I'm doing right now. I have this need to get it off my chest. I think about it, and I just haven't had the opportunity all the time to do this, except for right now when I'm in the moment and I'm focused on the... So what I'm doing right now, a bit of it's okay, Bendel. Everyone that faces someone going through mortality issues doesn't know how to react, and the first thing that they feel is, ooh, that's kind of uncomfortable. Stay positive. And I am positive. I really want to illustrate to people that in the of mortality, I'm not losing my shit. I'm not losing myself. I know exactly what's going on, and I'm really okay with it. It's just another full-time job. And honestly, this is kind of less stressful than a full-time job because I'm just focused on myself. I'm being self-centered, selfish, and that's a good thing when I'm in this battle. I'm feeling pretty calm, and this is why I'm face massage. It actually really helps to do stress relief. So I do face massage as often as I can because it controls the lymph in your face, which is going into your brain, and it's clearing your brain of all kind of stress hormones. So I'll show you how I do it. First, this is how I set myself up before any session of anything. Even when I'm going to sleep, I do face massage because it really, really helps. And the face, in one of my previous videos, I've described is the bathtub scum of the body. So imagine you have a water level in your body and you frequently suffer with dehydration, and as the dehydration sets in and these capillaries kind of dry out and shrink, they leave behind debris which causes these pigment marks because the liver is unable to reach those toxins and cleanse them out. So they kind of, I don't want to say they're toxins necessarily, but they're waste metabolites that should be cleared out the body and they're not. So it's like the bathtub scum tide mark that needs wiping down. So when I do face massage, I get the lymph flowing so that the immune system can see all the waste metabolites and help clear them out. That's what all these marks are. So these marks are actually the scars of cancer. And they're still kind of active, but the cancer's not active anymore, it's left. And it leaves these semi-active marks. The immune cells are still stuck in there, still active, so they leak like little tiny blisters every now and again. And this can erode the skin like a concave. It erodes it, and so it's not like acne, there's not like a bumping of pus, it's the opposite. There is so much immune activity that they become concave and they eat into your skin. And this is a really fascinating cancer tell, or a sign, that something's wrong in the body when you see these marks. Because it means that your immune system is fighting it back. And that's a good thing. So it's not really anything to be scared of. But it's something that doctors don't seem to read. They don't record this as a symptom because it's not an empirical symptom that they can note, that they can measure. They can measure your blood, but they can't measure this. So on a personal level of knowing your body, understanding the marks that are developing in your face is a really helpful sign to help yourself know that your immune system is efficient. Right now my immune system is working at max power, but it's struggling because I'm giving it so much work to do. These marks are not fading very fast. They hang around months at a time, and sometimes when they first appear they're really active and they kind of look like bruises, but they're not, because when you take a close look at them they're like tiny little spider veins where the cancer hormones are causing blood capillaries to grow and feed it, and then the immune system sees it and says, I know you're a prison break escapee, you escaped that I'm fighting down in your bowel and you made it to my face, I'm gonna kill you. So your immune system kills it, and then you get this scab, it turns black and it peels off. And sometimes the debris inside where the cancer has built something, encapsulated it, and your body spits it out as a rice grain. That is actually particular to sarcoma, which is a cancer that comes out of the bone. And because the spindle cells that are responsible for using tissue, they spin these filaments of calcium crystals. And when they're overactive, because they're cancer, they can't stop spinning, and they produce these calcium precipitates that are really painful, and they kind of pierce their way through your skin, and they destroy your joints, and they shred the nerve lines, so your nerves become weakened, and you lose, not sensation because there's a lot of pain, but you start to lose control of certain muscles. So anyway, I will go into describing what cancer feels like for those that don't know what it's like to go through this. But I also want to preface that with that as a kind of special ability. I have a very sensitive ability that's very high resolution to detect even the smallest prick inside my body. And most people, they would struggle to feel a finger on their back because they're not that in tune with their body, but I am. So anyway, I start my session with a facial massage because it gets the hormone excretions going, cleanses my brain of stress, and you need to be calm to fight cancer. So this is what I do. So I have this, looks kind of brutal, but this is called a muscle cone. It's padded, and I use these to stroke the lymph out of my face. And these lymph channels are connected to the brain as well. So when you do this, it actually helps cleanse the lymph out of the brain. So it helps to clear the brain. If you haven't had sleep, then your brain isn't fully cleansed, and that can fog you up for the day. It can leave you feeling very foggy. So I do facial massage a lot to try and, you know, wake myself up and do the hormone excretions to start feeling good about myself and calm. And this really works. I can fall asleep doing this. Like, I literally been rubbing my face and I fell asleep. So up the jawline here, you have these lymph nodes that go down the neck like this, around behind the ear. So I do it here, and it's moving lymph. So I'm enabling the immune system to pick up some of these waste metabolites that are stuck in the skin, digest them, and move them out. Get rid of the bath scum, tide mark on my face. I'm just keeping an eye on my bunnies at the moment. They're in the pushchair up there. I just show you. Oh, I can't. Sorry, I'm tied up with wires here. I got the thing. So anyway, I do this to start with. I'm just going to make myself a bit more comfortable a second. So I wake up in the morning and I feel pretty cripply because when you're fighting cancer, especially when it's metastasized, there's a lot of waste that's being dumped in the body, and it gets dumped primarily around the joints, around the synovial fluids, which are not vascular. So these joints collect. Hey little bird, you see me? It's so weird. I'm sorry, I get distracted so easily because there is a lot going on. But I really appreciate being out here fighting cancer in nature, because nature so acknowledge me, and I get these audiences of birds that come and watch me. And I wanted to tell a funny story about that while I remember. So the other day, I don't know, actually you can see it, that tree there, that tree, there was a couple of crows sat in it, and it was their evening. No one's usually at the pool, but they saw me, and I'm near the end of my session, so I'll go and do a handstand in the pool. And they were watching me, and they saw me kick up into a handstand, and they started heckling. They were like, "What is she doing? Did you see that?" And I did the handstand, and I failed, and I came down, and they were bobbing. The two crows were stood next to each other, and they were bobbing on the branch like this. They were like, "Oh my God, did you see that?" "Yeah, I did, dude. Did you see that? There's a human on their head." And I fell in the pool. I got up into a handstand, and I fell in the pool. And the crows were just heckling or laughing. It was like their circus evening. They were just watching something that they hadn't seen before. And I noticed them, and I was, these guys are really entertained. I'll do it again. And it was almost as if they were egging me on. "Yeah, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it." So I did it again. And they laughed again. They laughed with me. And that was the end of my evening. I did a little show for the crows. And it made me feel good. It was like nature acknowledged me. We're no different from the birds, the butterflies. We share consciousness, you know? It was great. And to end the evening on that note, it just made me feel alive and just glad to be alive and just enjoying the moment. Which is why I'm not sad when I'm fighting cancer, because I can enjoy moments like these that we don't think about. The next day, I came to the pool, and there were a bunch of teenage boys in the jacuzzi, so I wasn't filming. And the crows were there. They were sitting in a tree over there looking at me, and they were like, "Do you see her? Do you see her?" "Yeah, I see her. She's there. She's there. She's noticed us. She's noticed us. She's noticed us." And the boys didn't know, in the jacuzzi that I was sharing with, they didn't know that the crows were having this conversation with me and beckoning to me to do it. So I thought, okay guys, I see you, you see me, I'm gonna go do a hand for you. And they were like, they saw me at the jacuzzi. And I turned around, I went to the pool, and I turned around and they were gone, and I was like, huh? And they'd flown over to another tree to get a better view. And I was like, oh, you're here for show. So I did the handstand, and they loved it. And then I got back in the jacuzzi, and then more of their friends came, but I didn't go out because the teenage boys were there, and they were like, oh, you know, just feel a bit uncomfortable with that. So the real test is going to be tonight, if I go out here at 5 p.m. Checking my bunnies. If I go out here at 5 p.m, if the crows bring their friends and family for the movie, for the circus act. That'll be really interesting, you know, if they bring their friends. Anyway, I'm going to go to the high resolution one now, which is, I've done this, which is the muscle comb, and it feels so good. Feels so good. And I'm going to high resolution now, which is, it's still squishy, but now I may get into these nasolabial folds around here. And this is the funniest cancer mark, because when this came up, it was so rapid. Like, my husband was like, you need to go see the doctor about that. And this was before anyone was saying the word cancer. No one was saying the word cancer, and I knew what it was, because when you know that you've got it, it's like a woman's intuition when she knows she's pregnant. It feels very much pregnant, being pregnant with cancer. So I knew what it was, and I knew my body was attacking it. So I wasn't afraid, and I was like, yeah, it's nothing, it's okay. Because I was protecting my husband, because I don't want to have this discussion with him. Like, you need to see the doctor about that. Maybe there's a lotion or something you can put on it and kill it. But my body was it, which is why it looked so bad. It went black, and like he thought my nose was gonna drop off. So So I occasionally get these flyaway prison break escapees, these tiny little cancer clumps that break away from the main tumors. They fly around my body and they land somewhere, like the furthest place they escape, like on the end of my nose. Watch it, and over 3 days my immune system catches up with it and kills it, and it's just a fascinating process to watch because I know my immune system's acting it. So anyway, I was going to go back to the high resolution, the muscle cone, and now I'm going to do the sort of high resolution ones, the nasolabial fold. Babies, what are you doing? Let me wait just a second. I'm going to try and make myself comfortable and carry on. I like to get the jet nozzles on my joint bases to baffle the crystals of calcium, the joint spaces. One of the I think it's like a symptom that they can actually measure. One of the symptoms of metastasized cancer, like when it's really active, is calcium deposits in the joints called pseudo-gout, which is extremely painful. It's calcium crystals. When you think about it, calcium crystals are the immune system, or one of the cells that heal, called spindle cells, reacting to damage in the body, and they're trying to create these granulomas, these sites of healing. But they try and stabilize damaged tissue by spinning calcium needles, stabilize the torn muscle or whatever. So unfortunately, because they're overactive, and especially with metastasized cancer, when there's back going on in your whole body, these calcium crystals build up in your joints and they hurt. It's like having gravel in your joints on a microscopic scale. So the easiest way to deal with them is to get in the jacuzzi and baffle these calcium crystals out of the joints, which means it's going to go into your blood, which means your kidneys are going to get irritated because your kidneys don't very much like calcium crystals. So your kidneys start to suffer. And that's a horrible sensation because you have urge that you want to pee all the time, but then you can't pee because you're not peeing any faster than normal and there's nothing left. Hi, Charlie. So Charlie here, called Pinworm, is a fellow cancer of mine. He's also with metastasized cancer that's trying to spread. He was diagnosed 5 years ago, 9 months to live. Yeah, thanks. Just so people can see in the comments. So if you wouldn't mind, Charlie, I want to carry on just talking. And if you see any weird comments, if you wouldn't mind just like steering that a little bit for me, it'd help a lot because it's very distracting. I'm trying to just get this dog out of my head. And there are very weird people. What are you doing? Beano, you really need more thoughtful. So Beano is my giant bunny, and he is very unaware. And he's sitting on baby girl. He's literally sitting on her. So she gets a little frustrated. Like, he's sitting on her head. Beano, you're... Honestly, he's so dumb. He can't help it. He's a big bunny that doesn't know. He hasn't got any empathy. Doesn't know how to be there. Okay. Baby girl. There you go. I really need them to bond, so I'm training them to be nice to each other. It's kind of difficult with this big oaf who keeps sitting on baby girl. The reason why he's unaware is because he's a caged animal for 4 years in a meat farm. So he was not shown love and he doesn't know how to give it. So I have brought him along. He's now free to hop around the house. He has a lot of freedom, which was difficult to get him to accept because he was used to a cage. But he's getting there. But I need to try and teach him to love her somehow. You really need to give her some kisses. You dozy bunny. I love you so much, but you really need to wake up. Anyway, that's really sweet of you, Daniel. He said hi to Charlie, so where was I? You know what? I used the little comb here to try and clean the nasolabial folds out. That we've got lymph nodes around here and in our jaw here and up the side like this, and my face is improving, so there's no active cancer that's made its way to my face. This bit looks a bit active, but it's more the immune system that's overfired. So imagine this is just my face. Imagine every organ looking like this on its boundary surfaces, where the cancer breaks off and lands on an organ and tries to set in, tries to grow, and my immune system catches up with it and kills it. So my organs look, and I can feel my organs, and they're really struggling. They're really trying to, so what I do is I support every organ into, we live by a circadian rhythm, which is according to the sunlight, and every organ in turn has its different role to play at a different time of day, which is signaled by hormones. And where do the hormones come from? Your brain, kidneys, your thymus, your thyroid. So you have to look after those signal emissions. And to do that, you need to stay calm and to have this feeling of love. So I do self-love, I do face massage, and it really, really helps maintain the circadian rhythm. And you need sunlight as well, because we're humans that are guided by our circadian rhythm and sleep cycle, so you need the sunlight. It's not just for vitamin D, it's to program the brain how to set each organ off in its cycle. Oh, the crow here. They've seen me. The crows are early. They normally come at like 5 p.m. with the ducks. And the ducks come here, and then Beano wants to play with the ducks, so I let him out, and he goes and plays with the ducks, the giant bunny, you know. It's actually made me so aware of nature and our connections with it that if I get through this, I have a new respect. I mean, it's always been there with me, but nature's really helping me. It's like it's rooting for me, you know. It's like, we see you, you're amazing. That's how I feel with nature at the moment. And that's why I love it here so much. Anyway, so my bunnies are kind of ticked off that they're being forced to sit in the carriage. They need to learn to spend time together, so they're okay. But they have these little arguments in the pushchair now and again. There's a hummingbird. The hummingbirds haven't noticed me yet. They're pretty busy. Anyway, where was I? Oh, it kind of itches. Itching is the immune system. So, in my previous videos, I mentioned the cancer itch. When I do this fight with cancer, I'm very targeted. And I'm using a Chinese spoon to do more of the massage. I have a gua sha tool here, which is this one. And it's for going along the jaw here, this little notch. But I don't know why, I prefer the spoon. Anyway, so what I've done is I've set up this tiny little shaded area that I'm sitting in. Everywhere is too bright. And I park myself in front of the nozzle and I park my different parts of me on the nozzle to baffle either the plaquing of my joints, which is the calcium crystals building up and causing pain. And they can irritate the nerve sheaths, so if they irritate the nerve sheaths, I lose my ability to walk smoothly. Sometimes I lose muscle control, and it can present as a limp, where I've just lost control of muscles. And sometimes I put the baffle, like right now, I've got the baffle on a particular spot in my belly. And what it does is it creates these infrasound vibrations, which are very low frequency vibrations. And low frequency vibrations mean that it's kind of got quite a high amplitude. So it's like vibrating a guitar string, like bass mode, right? And that literally shakes the tumors, and it peels them away from healthy tissue. So your hair is sinuous, it's stretchy, but the cancer is not. It feels very clumpy and it doesn't stretch. So this interface between the two causes them to tear and break away. And that's pretty gross feeling. And I do that because when you pick the scab off the cancer during this process, your immune system sees it. And it goes, oh shit, there's something there. And the first thing is it commands the mast cells to dump in a bunch of eosinophiles, which are a particular type of white blood cell that crowd the area out, thinking that it's a parasite, to stop the spread, the proliferation of the cancer from moving elsewhere. So they crowd out all the capillaries and they cause swelling. And that process is kind of painful. So it's not the bleeding from the cancer, because there is a small amount of bleed. You've got tiny blood vessels that are breaking up. And these blood vessels are going into parts of the tissue where they shouldn't be. And that alerts the immune system something is there. It could be a parasite, something. Something's not right, because there is blood in tissue that shouldn't be in there. So the immune system goes in and checks it out like a bunch of sentinels, like octopuses. They go around and they taste. They're like, oh shit, the first line of defense, the first line of warriors come in, which are these eosinophiles. And they plug up all the blood capillaries. They come into action and they swell up like hearts And so when you get a bee sting, it's the eosinophiles. When you get bitten by ants and insects, it's eosinophiles. They crowd the area to stop pathogens entering the body or going anywhere else. And they itch like crazy. So when you pick the scab off the cancer with a jacuzzi, you get the sensation, you get the first sensation, which is this tear at the interface between healthy tissue and unhealthy tissue, which is clumping, which doesn't stretch. And there's this tear, and you can feel the micro tear, like these blood capillaries bleeding. And it just feels like a bruise. It doesn't feel like really bad bleeding. It's not like a lot of blood. It's just a tiny amount. And women go through this sensation every month. So women know what this feels like. They're used to having a period every month. So you know what your blood vessels feel like when they decide to open up. It's hormonal sensation as well. So, the eosinophiles come in, they crowd it out, and it causes this insane itch, like hives on the inside of your body that you can't scratch. But that's a good thing. That is your immune system stepping up. It's not the cancer growing, it's actually the cancer being attacked by the immune system. So you can feel reassured if you get the cancer itch, right? I treat it as reassurance. I can see now. The first line of defense is in, and they're holding the line, they're holding the battlefront until the other immune system, the other immune cells can come in and clean up the debris. When I pause, it's because I'm going into myself, I'm sensing what's happening, and it's a lot of information and a lot of white noise that comes in, and it crowds my thoughts sometimes. It's overwhelming sometimes. It's good, I'm just tracking it. It's like I'm directing the battlefield on many different fronts, and I'm just in communication with my immune system all the time, which is why I need to be relaxed, which is why I do the facial massage. You don't want to get stressed out during this process. If you get stressed out, that confuses the immune system. It drips cortisol, and they're like, where's the tiger? I'm not running away from a tiger, it's right here. But they're like, where's the tiger? And then they start attacking the wrong thing. So it's important to stay calm and enjoy it while you can. Enjoy the fact that your immune system's working, even really uncomfortable, because it's working. And there's ways to avoid the pain. If you're a masochist, I get it. But this is a different kind of discomfort you can be at peace with. It's kind of like being a masochist. It's not comfortable. But hey, my body let this stuff grow. And it didn't just appear overnight. There's years. And then my body pushed it back into dormancy. And then it got activated again in a period of stress where my immune system got distracted. So it was unable to grow again, to the point where now the doctors are seeing something. So they're like, oh, this isn't mast cell anymore. And I'm like, I know. No. Been trying to tell you. But their hands are tied. They can't hear you because they work by a system that's controlled by insurance, that's controlled by money. So it's not the doctor's fault. I'm going to move my camera a second because I need to get it out of the sunlight, otherwise it'll overheat and the signal will get crappy. So I'm going to move you here. Right. Another sign which isn't a symptom. Symptoms are different from signs. Symptoms is something you can tell the doctor explicitly and it down, and it's potentially measurable. They can validate it in some way with a test, or they can look at it, they can see it, they can poke it. A sign, not so much. They're just taking your word, and they may not take your word. Some doctors don't have that empathy. And they're not trained to look for signs. So it's like you're speaking a different language. So this is an interesting sign. Tartar. Tartar on your teeth. So when your immune system is overloaded, shit, sorry, this is hurting a bit. When your immune system's overloaded, think of it as there's water in your body, and that's part of the immune system, and it's just full of junk and precipitate is collecting and trying to get rid of through the liver and through the spleen. But there's too much, it's bottlenecked. The organs can't work fast enough to clear it out, so there's an overload. That overload comes out in every other fluid of your body, in your saliva as well. And you notice it overnight as a build-up on teeth faster than normal. And it calcifies faster than normal. So instead of it just being normal plaque, you sense this kind of grit sensation building up on your teeth faster. That's okay. It's just a sign that your body is doing a lot of cleanup, and it's precipitating wherever it can. It precipitates into your joints, which gives you the pain, but it also precipitates on your teeth, and that's interesting to notice. And this is why, if you go for teeth cleaning, it's really good to talk to the dental hygienist. She can notice health problems. She sees a lot of mouths and a lot of precipitate on the teeth, and sometimes she's familiar with bad breath and knows what bad breath is, but also where it's coming from. And when you're suffering with cancer, there is something happening on a metabolic level, this destruction of cells on a metabolic level, that causes this release of volatile compounds, VOCs, which enter the bloodstream, and they enter your blood, and at the first point they get to evaporate, they evaporate. So the smell that comes off your skin, it comes out of your mouth, you breathe out, it comes out of your armpits, it's just leaking out of you. And it's a pretty bad smell. It's not like bad breath. And the type of smell relates to the type of cell breaking down in your body. And the type of smell can indicate where the cancer is in your body. So I noticed intermittently that I had these really bad odors that were just leaking out of my breath. It wasn't coming from a piece of food debris. I knew, because my mouth was pretty clean, and I knew there was something wrong. But I was like, a doctor believe me, you know? I have to wait for something physical that he can measure to get the doctor to hear me. But in time I was just aware of these things, and I just made a mental note. And one of the smells is kind of moldy. I decided to drop that call because it's just medical bills now automated. They want to get you to pay, so they automate the spam system to get you to pay your bills. So I'm not only being spammed by these loan companies that recognize there's something up, I'm getting spammed by the med system that is now automated to get me to pay my bills. So I am just treading water with the amount of debt that I'm trying to manage. It's tough. And I'm not working, I'm on medical leave. So my income is fixed, and it's just a headache, a stress that I don't need while I'm fighting cancer. So this is so itchy. It's okay. So anyway, where was I with the different smells? So I've had a few interesting different smells. Different parts of my body are affected, so each part of my body has a different smell. The moldy smell is the bone cancer side of it. So all sarcomas have this kind of mold smell, and usually it's coming out of the jawbone, because you have these lymph nodes here, and when you have sarcoma that escapes to the furthest reaches of the body, it usually ends up in the jawbone here. And these lymph nodes are obviously in the jawbone, so some of that tissue gets destroyed, and the smell, the volatile organic compound associated with that is mold. It smells like mold, right? Because bone smells moldy when it decomposes. But it's not coming out of your mouth, it just comes out of, like, your sinuses. You usually breathe this stuff out. It's a volatile organic compound, so it doesn't need, it can come out of anywhere on your face. So that was one of the smells I noticed. And there was another smell, which is kind of acid-like, sulfuric and sulfurous, a bit like rotten eggs. And once again, you only need a tiny, just a little bit. You know, it's like a, and the sulfurous smell is where it's attacking my stomach. So my stomach has a lot of banding around it, a lot of scar tissue and stuff. Not in the stomach, but outside the stomach. So every time my stomach tries to move, it faces agony and tearing, and those cells being destroyed are coming from my stomach, and they have a very acidic, chemical, sulfurous smell. And it's very faint, but I kind of like, I put this down and I'm like, Jesus, I stink. The smell lately in the last week has actually cleaned up quite a bit, because my immune system is killing the cancer rather than the healthy tissue being killed by the cancer. So it's different, you know, it's less disgusting. So the smell of the immune system working hard is kind of sweet. Kind of smells like pear drops. Pear drops. It's kind of a chemically sweet, but not sickly, kind of sour. And that is the immune system struggling. You can smell. So if I was to describe any of this to a doctor, they would probably have to have a serious run of, well, let's just run 100 different samples by you and see if this is real, if you've got your money on the mark. And I'd be happy for them to do this, because I know I've been in my body for so long, you know what I mean? It's like I'm sensitive to these sensations and smells and high resolution process. But the downside of that is emotionally, in broad strokes, I don't have names for emotions. The constellation of sensations that I'm getting is too high a resolution for it to be a broad stroke happiness or a broad stroke. What is that emotion? I don't know what I'm feeling in a moment, because there's just too much white noise. The constellation is just staring at the Milky Way in my brain, because the amount of signals coming in, it's like white noise on a Geiger counter, right? It used to be like ping, oh, ping, oh. And sometimes those pings used to be like once every few weeks. like that wasn't right. And then it came back, and I was like, oh, there's something there, because it came back. And my body couldn't feel it for some time because it was blind, but it came back, and now I'm paying attention to the area, and so my nerves grow into that area to sense it more, and then it's like ping, 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 and I'm like, oh, there's something really there. I'm just checking on my bunnies a second. Good girl. She's doing okay, she's grooming him. When I'm tired of this, I'll switch the live stream off and just get back to the work I'm doing on myself. I modulate the amount of work I do on the cancer. I split the work between baffling out my joints and cleaning out my joints, or choosing to attack the cancer. And I have to balance it, because the first important thing is getting my joints clear, because that opens up my nerves. It helps them feeling irritated, and I can sense better what's going on, so I know where to direct the immune system better. So that's my priority always, to joints out in the mornings in the jacuzzi. And I usually do that by putting my back, this SI joint, I'll show you right here, joint here, either side. I clean it by putting the nozzle on the SI joint. And it just gets the calcium crystals out of the fibrous joint tissue. Collects like a dead toothbrush, you know. Fibers in the joint. It's not a synovial joint. They clog up with calcium crystals, and then you can't move your joints freely, and it irritates the nerves passing through, so you end up with spasms, and it's not good. So I do that. And then once I've cleaned my main joints where the meridians are passing through, I can move on to the cancer clumps. And the cancer clumps are interesting because there's some old ones and relatively new ones. So where do you pick your battle? Well, for me, the old ones are more stable than the new ones. The new ones tend to be more aggressive. They've mutated a little bit further. And the new ones that are spreading, they are more near the life-sustaining organs, so it's important to get the front line there if you've got the energy for it. So I try to balance my resources, my energy, between eating away at some of the old clumps to try and shrink them a bit, but more importantly, trying to get to the new clumps before they damage the life-sustaining organs. And there's a bit of the clumping that's wrapped around my stomach, and that's really hard to get to. But the important thing to know about getting to the one at the stomach is that you have to be really careful how often you do it, because every time you attack the clumping around the stomach, it's very close proximity to the heart, and you have to be prepared for when a clump runs away and lands on your heart. You have to be prepared that you're in a strong enough state of mind to enable your immune system to protect your heart. Because these clumps, they kind of try to bed in. Whenever they land, they cause new blood vessels to grow. And you have to be in a position in your mindset where you're calm enough to enable the cancer to be seen. If you're not calm, the immune system gets distracted and delayed in getting there. So I truly have to time how often I have to be strategic about how often I baffle the cancer that's wrapped around my stomach. Because when it breaks up, those clumps fly and they can my heart, which I felt. And then I have to babysit other people's emotions, which I don't want to do. I don't have the energy, and I don't have the time to be doing that shit. I told my husband the other day, oh, I felt a clump land on my heart. It woke me up at 5 a.m. And he dismissed it and said, oh, you're anxious, it's just anxiety, it's just heart arrhythmia. And I was like, I don't want to go into this. I just let him have his belief, even though it was dismissing me. And I went with it for a couple of days, and then I realized, okay, it's working, it's fighting it back. I can feel the newest tension in the pericardium, which is the inflammation that's built up in the pericardium around my heart. So I'm just going to milk that out gently. But anyway, excuse me. So this mark on my nose, it's a war trophy. The cancer landed there and it got fought back, and I wish I got it on video, because it was so, when it happened, when it landed and the blood vessel started to grow like lichen. And I'm watching it in the mirror and I'm seeing these blood vessels grow. I stood there for quite a long time watching it, and I was like, I'm not gonna let you bed in, I'm not gonna let you settle, I'm gonna poke it a bit, irritate it, and just make sure the immune system knows it's there. So I got these tweezers and I poked it. And my immune system immediately swelled it up and it got pretty angry. So this bump on my nose, I was like Rudolph. And these blood vessels were growing out, and it looked like someone had punched me in the face. But the immune system crowded it out. It swelled up, and within 24 hours it turned black. And I was like, okay, it's got it. It's not gonna, it's fine. It didn't bed. But I felt the same sensation bed on my heart. That morning I woke up and I was like, oh shit, it's got to my heart. That's not good. There was a little bit of anxiety, but I was like, I can feel it. If I can feel it, my immune system knows it's there, because I have a very extraordinary level of sensitivity where I can map body, and I've worked hard to be able to map it. So I was pretty reassured. I knew where it was, and therefore my immune system could see it. And within 24 hours I was fighting it, and I could feel the pain get worse, and I was like, cancer doesn't hurt because it grows blindly. Your body is growing it blindly. This hurt. And the hurting was reassuring, because it was like, I know my heart's hurting, but I know the cancer's being fought back. So 24 hours later, it was the worst of the pain, and the arrhythmia was really kind of throat. It was like bump, bump, and this was shivering. One side of my heart was kind of shivering with the pain. 24 hours later, it was gone. Overnight, I felt it go away, and the remaining sensation was sinuous tension around my heart. Like every time I breathe, I could feel tension connecting my heart to my stomach area, and that is the pericardium just inflamed. But that's good, because that inflammation takes time to milk out, and you can milk it out with a kind of breathing exercise to relieve tension. So that's what I did, and 48 hours later that discomfort had subsided. So whenever I'm attacking the cancer that's sitting on my stomach, I'm very aware of I'm not letting it go, so it's not progressing. What's making it progress is the fight. So every time I fight the cancer, things break off around my body in the blood flow, and they try to bed elsewhere. And I've got a few lumps here and there where I know the cancer's at, so it's okay, I'm fighting it. But it's not actively spreading because it can't bed in. I'm letting it bed. That process has been so difficult to articulate. It's been in my head all this time, and this is why I was like, I need to get it out of my head, because I want people to believe that they can do this. I want people to feel reassured that they can do this, and it really does feedback. There is a feedback sensation that comes with it. Maybe I am unusually high resolution, but maybe other people are high resolution as well, and they can feel it too. Maybe you have that resolution of sensation yet. Maybe you can get there. Maybe you can develop it. And I know you can develop it because I've been developing it. I've been developing when I knew I had cancer, and I knew in order for me to fight it, I had to develop a map of my body, and I did that mapping with my system. And I did it with cold plunges. So plunges, when you come back into the jacuzzi, you get the pins and needles sensation. That is the incapacity of nerves to be able to take that much energy. So your nerves are kind of hitting this sensation, and it gives you pins and needles. But then your one goes, oh, I don't have enough capacity. I need to increase my highways. I need to strengthen my insulation on the. And when I do that, I just happen to have a few more branches out. I can see a bit more of what's going on in my body. So cold plunges are really, really helpful to grow your internal introspection, your internal sensitivity. And at first when you do the cold plunges, it's like, I hate this. It feels like 1,000 knives. But now I don't feel them because I've got the bandwidth to take it. I'm in a lot of discomfort now. Are you grooming her, Beano? You need to groom her. There's a boy. Good boy. Who's a good boy, Beano? He started grooming her, huh? Good boy. Good boy. Okay, I would put the camera and show them, but he's actually just started grooming her. He needs to practice more at it. It's not exactly second nature to him. I'm in a lot of pain right now. It's okay. Just go with it. It's not bad pain. It's my immune system is fired up and it's actively swelling. One particular tumor, it's swelling up and it's pulling on my tissue around my bowel. So it's very uncomfortable. cancer comes with a lot of discomfort. I don't want my bunnies to be, what do you call it? I don't want them to get overheated, so they're in double shade, so I've got the parasol and extra shade over them. If I just turn the camera around, here we are. Maybe no. I'll just wet your ears again, help you cool down, huh? His ears are very hot, so I need him to cool down. He likes it if I wet his ears. So if I keep his ears wet, it helps him cool down and it relieves his stress. And he'll also groom little girl a little bit. He's given her a couple of licks, but he needs to do it continuously, you know, he needs to learn how to do it more. So that cools his ears down and puts his central on. So I'm just going to get myself comfortable again. So anyway, I wanted to get my words on transcript, so at some point I can review this and get words out, published, written down somewhere, so that they help someone.